La Campagne d'Italie would set the stage for Napoleon Bonaparte's first significant victory and mark the beginning of his illustrious military career. The not as famous but ever so crucial Battle of Montenotte would be the first true demonstration of Napoleon's tactical genius. A day in mid-April, a year into the last decade of the 18th century, witnessed the unfolding of a decisive clash. On April 12, 1796, during the tumultuous times of the French Revolutionary Wars, the Battle of Montenotte erupted. This confrontation was the opening act of the Montenotte campaign. The key players? French forces led by none other than General Napoleon Bonaparte and their adversaries, a coalition of Austrian and Sardinian troops. The battleground was set, the stakes were high, and the scenes that played out would go down in the annals of military history. At the end of that day, a young, relatively unknown general had claimed his first victory, setting the stage for an illustrious military career. The real intrigue of the Battle of Montenotte lies not in its scale but in the tactical brilliance displayed by Napoleon Bonaparte. Bonaparte's genius lay in his ability to see the battlefield as a chessboard, with every piece, every move having a role in the final outcome. And his first move, a daring strategy that was as simple as it was effective: divide and conquer. Rather than face the combined Austrian and Sardinian forces head-on, Bonaparte sought to split them apart, to isolate them, to engage them on his own terms. Much like a lion on the savannah, which doesn't charge headlong into the herd of gazelles, but instead picks off the stragglers one by one, Napoleon did the same. By forcing the enemy to fight on two fronts, he effectively halved their strength, leaving them vulnerable and disoriented. Next came the swift movements. Bonaparte knew that speed was of the essence. He had to strike quickly, decisively, before the enemy could regroup. His troops moved with a speed and precision that were unheard of at the time. They were everywhere and nowhere, striking fear into the hearts of their adversaries. And then there was the artillery. Bonaparte was one of the first commanders to understand the true power of artillery, to see it not just as a support weapon but as a decisive force in its own right. He used his cannons not only to bombard the enemy lines but also to break them, to create chaos and confusion in the enemy ranks. These were the tactics that led to a swift French victory at Montenotte. Despite being outnumbered, despite facing a formidable enemy, Bonaparte's forces emerged victorious. It was these tactics that not only won the day but also signaled the rise of a new kind of warfare, one that put an emphasis on speed, flexibility, and the use of artillery. The Battle of Montenotte was more than just a military victory. It was a turning point that had far-reaching implications. In the immediate aftermath, the Austrian forces, having suffered a significant defeat, were forced to retreat. The formidable Habsburg Empire had been dealt a decisive blow, and the balance of power in the region had shifted. They scrambled to regroup, their morale dampened and their strategic plans in disarray. Meanwhile, the Sardinian forces, having also been defeated, had no choice but to surrender. The once proud army was at the mercy of the French, their future uncertain and their spirit broken. Their surrender marked the end of any significant resistance in northern Italy. With the Austrian retreat and Sardinian surrender, the French, under the leadership of the young and ambitious Napoleon Bonaparte, occupied northern Italy. This was not just a territorial gain, it was a statement, a demonstration of French power and resolve. This occupation served as a clear signal to the other European powers that France was a force to be reckoned with. But the significance of the Battle of Montenotte extended beyond the immediate military and political consequences. It played a pivotal role in the Italian campaign, setting the stage for a series of French victories that would ultimately lead to the Treaty of Campo Formio. This treaty marked the end of the First Coalition and established France as a dominant power in Europe. Furthermore, the Battle of Montenotte announced Napoleon's arrival on the world stage. His innovative tactics and decisive leadership during the battle set him apart. This was the beginning of his rise to power, the first significant step in a journey that would see him become one of the most influential figures in history. And so the Battle of Montenotte, while perhaps not the most famous of battles, was a crucial step in the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte, a man whose impact on history is undeniable.